Hi, I am Ravi Handa, founder of the website handakafunda.com. And today I am here to talk about the complete CAT syllabus. Now, as you might know, the notification got released a few days ago, and today we are here, we'll talk about the important dates from the CAT 2016 exam perspective. The sectional breakup. There are going to be three sections. What do they contain? How much time is allocated? What will be the number of questions in them? Stuff like that. The breakup of the quantitative aptitude section, the breakup of the LRDI section, and the breakup of the verbal aptitude section. So in this 10-minute odd video, these are the things that I'm planning to discuss. So to begin with, the most important thing that some of you might know, some of you might not know, are the dates. The notification got released this Sunday. Well, I'm making this video in early August, so this Sunday means 31st of July. The registration will start on 8th of August and it will continue till the 22nd of September. Now, one thing that I've seen a lot of CAT aspirants do is they try to register on the last date. Guys, please don't do that. I have been teaching for a decade and somehow or the other, I've always seen that people who try to do it on the last date, they kind of mess it up. Sometimes they fill in some wrong details, sometimes the server is not working, maybe the payment is not working, something or the other goes wrong. So I would strongly suggest that if you are thinking about CAT 2016, wrap this part up in August. It's not something worth spending too much time on. The exam date, as you might know, is 4th of December. So you have clearly 4 months for it. Even if you start today, there is more than enough time to prepare. Once again, I cannot emphasize this enough. Even if you start today, there is more than enough time to prepare. CAT preparation typically takes anywhere from 300 to 500 hours, depending upon how good you are. But if you can put in, let's say, 2-3 hours a day, you will be able to reach the target of 300 to 500 hours, and that should be good enough. And then the results, most importantly, will be declared in the second week of January 2017. Going ahead, let's have a look at the sectional breakup. So CAT typically is divided in 3 sections. At least it was last year in 2015. Even in this year, the announcement has been made that there will be 3 sections for CAT. There will be the quantitative aptitude section, the verbal aptitude section, people call it the VARC or the verbal ability reading comprehension section, and there is one more section that is for LR and DI. Now, if you might notice, I have put in some numbers here. Quantitative aptitude as 34, verbal ability as 34, LR and DI as 16 and 16. Officially, this hasn't been announced yet, but looking at the past year papers, the pattern across the last 10 years, this is broadly what the breakup is going to be. So if there are 100 questions, once again, the word that I'm using is if. So if there are 100 questions, then there will be, you can say 34 on quantitative, 34 on VRC, and 32 on LR and DI. However, if the number of questions changes, you can still assume that the breakup would be in similar percentages as shown here. Then, if you want to know what exactly gets asked in quantitative aptitude, most probably the first section, well, here is the breakup for that. Now, quantitative aptitude, typically the 34 questions which are there, this is not just based on CAT 2015, but this is based on the data from last 10 years. So if you look at the data from the last 10 years, you would realize that the quant is divided into these 5 areas. Number system being the first one with 5 marks or 5 questions or 5% of the total. Arithmetic, geometry, algebra, these 3 are the more important bits which have 7-8 questions roughly in each year across the last 10 years. And modern maths. So basically your permutation and combination, your sequence series, probabilities, stuff like that. Set theory, that comes in the modern maths category, which will get you around 6 questions. Now, some of the very common myths about the stuff that gets asked and that doesn't get asked. Remainders. I don't know why so many people spend so much time on finding out the remainders. In the last 10 years, I don't think there have been even 5 questions that have been asked on remainders. Yes, so not even half a question every year gets asked on remainders. Think about how much time you are giving to it. And even the questions which do get asked, do they use the Fermat's theorem or the Euler's theorem or the Wilson's theorem or anything that fancy? No, they don't. Then why do people study it? Well, hard to say. Some people like me are at fault. The coaching institutes are at fault. There are plenty of people you can put the blame on. But since you have seen this particular video, I would like to emphasize that remainders and overall number system in general is not something that you need to prioritize upon. Very similarly, probability. A lot of people get scared by it. Permutation combination. A lot of people get scared by it, spend days, hours studying it. Is it that important? No, it is not. What is a lot more important is something in geometry, something like circles, something like polygons, calculating area, calculating volume, stuff like that. That has a higher chance of being asked than something fancy in permutation and combination. If if you are concerned about permutation and combination, there are only two formulas that you need to know. What is NCR and what is NPR? Anything beyond that, frankly speaking, is not required. So do keep those things in mind when you're studying for quant. Moving on to the next area, which slide should have been titled LR and DI. Logical reasoning will have 16 questions and data interpretation will have 16 questions. Now, if you look at CAT 2015 as an example, this was probably the toughest section, but not that tough. Do keep in mind that you don't need to score a particular number. You don't need to score 16 marks. You don't need to score 50 marks. All you need to score is more than the others. So never guess. Do as much as you can. That would be my suggestion to you. So 16 questions, typically on 4 sets of 4 questions each. That is what you can expect in the LRDI part. DI over the last few years has moved a little bit towards logical DI, which means earlier what used to happen was you used to be just given a table with some data is there and some data is missing and you needed to solve it. But that is no longer the case. Now what happens is there is a table, there is some data in it, but you can't blindly fill it up. It will not be something like averages. You need to use your head to actually fill in those values. That means the questions are getting a little bit tougher. Moving on to verbal ability. Now, this is one part that I'm a little bit confused about, considering last year what happened. So, if you look at the last year's paper, the only thing that was asked was reading comprehension, which had 24 questions, and verbal reasoning, which had 10 questions. Now, what is verbal reasoning? Verbal reasoning could include stuff like parajumbles, where you are given a set of sentences and you have to find out what order they should be in. Or you are again given a set of sentences, or you have to exclude a sentence from them which does not gel well with the paragraph. It could also include stuff like fact inference judgment, for example. So this is the case that was there last year. 24 questions on RC, 10 questions on verbal reasoning. I believe that might continue, but there is another thing that I believe might happen, which is a verbal ability type 2. Reading comprehension will still be the major part of it with 20 questions on it. But verbal reasoning will have 8 questions, but there might be a few questions on verbal ability as well. Now, what does verbal ability include? It will include tough questions on, say, for example, grammar, or maybe perhaps a question or two based on vocab or stuff like that. This is the kind of stuff that used to get asked in the past, wasn't there last year, does not mean it will not be there this year. So, some of you might tend to neglect verbal ability, that it doesn't get asked. Why should I study for it? Why should I put in effort for it? But you should, because this might get asked this year. It wasn't asked last year is not a good enough explanation for you not to study it. And topic-wise details, if you really want to get into it, there's number system, which is there in quant. Algebra is another topic, arithmetic, geometry, and modern maths. This is the breakup that we just discussed, just revising the entire thing. There is DI and LR in section 2, reading comprehension, verbal reasoning, critical reasoning, and verbal ability. So this is your broad distribution of the topics, or at least the sections which are there. You will find in the course, in the online course that we have on handakafunda.com, you will have the syllabus which is divided in these exact same categories. For each of these topics, you would find that there are concepts questions, there are solved examples, and there are previous year CAT questions. Now, those are the important ones. They teach you the techniques, they teach you the shortcuts, they teach you the tricks, and most importantly, they teach you what you need to study and what you don't need to study. Sometimes mocks are guilty of putting in very difficult stuff, but if you go through the previous year questions in these areas, you would know what is important and what is not. So I suggest that you do get in touch with us. Do check out our website, handakafunda.com. If you have any further questions about it, I'm always reachable on email. My email ID is ravihanda@gmail.com. My contact number is 97651 42632. Now, I'm not really active on WhatsApp, but come on, I'm in mid-30s. I'm trying to be active on that. So the website, as I said before, is handakafunda.com. We have a CAT 2016 course which is live, which is currently running on a discount, so you can check that out as well. That's it for today, guys. Hope you learned something about the CAT syllabus and the CAT 2016 exam from this video. Thanks a lot. Do like and share. Bye bye.